Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to this edition of ClarITea Chat. This is the 46th episode of ClarITea Chat, and today we have with us Veneeth Purushotaman, Group CIO of Aster Healthcare. Hi Veneeth, welcome to this ClarITea Chat session.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
And a cup of tea.
Yeah. Cheers. Cheers to you.
Cheers, man. So, before we go further, thank you all for attending this. And also for watching the recordings. You have been encouraging us from all over the world, which keeps us going week after week. Thank you so much. Now, about Veneeth. Veneeth was born and brought up in Rourkela, in a cosmopolitan city. His 2.5 decades of experience ranges from Shoppers Stop, HyperCITY, Bharti and Fortis before joining Aster DM Healthcare. He's based in Dubai. And he joined as a Group CIO 3.5 years back. He's a Certified Healthcare CIO, member of HIMSS, APAC. Maybe Veneeth, you can later on explain what that is. And the CHIME India chapter. He's based out of Dubai and responsible for technology across the 7 countries Aster operates in, as well as across all the business verticals, hospitals, clinics, labs, and pharmacies. His journey started as a data entry operator to a Group CIO, and it's an amazing goldmine of transformational experiences. Thanks, Veneeth, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be on your show. And thank you, Jagdish, for having me on the show.
Thanks, Veneeth, for being here. So, folks, just to give you a quick overview of our chat. As always, it will be a freewheeling chat which will cover case studies on his experimentation mindset, experiences with M&A transitions with multiple partners as one team, insights on keeping pace in the service industry. Service industries have been facing the biggest digital disruption. How he has handled technology transformation projects across retail and successfully overcome challenges of technology adoption in healthcare industry. He'll share his insights on how he leveraged the technology during pandemic in the hotspot industry during the pandemic, which is healthcare and hospitals, and a big job of keeping people safe. And also, how where is healthcare IT going, and some insights on outsourcing the activities, not the accountability. So his philosophy is ask and you shall be given, and that has led to some interesting experiences. One of which he will share that was instrumental in his career. We'll get there during the session. We'll end the chat with a rapid fire round, and then Veneeth's the reverse question for me. So Veneeth, before we start talking of serious things, let's get some energy going up. So what has been the most ironical incident of your life? Something like Guru se badkar chela?
Yeah. So that perhaps of the many, perhaps that's one which we can share and talk about. That it's about around 99. when I was teaching in one of the IBM franchisees uh, about the AS400 mid-range server, and I used to be a faculty there. In the evening classes, I had somebody in my class, and that guy happened to be subsequently helping me get into the company called Ron Pauling. I don't mind calling his name out. His name was Gregory Paul, and is still a very good friend of mine, who became my boss. So he was my student who became my boss. So the interview was very interesting. When the interview happened, we had a common boss who was interviewing me, and he said, आपको क्या इंटरव्यू करना है? आप तो ग्रेगरी का सर है, तो आपको क्या इंटरव्यू करना? So the interview got over in five minutes, I guess. And I was into a large multinational French organization called Ron Pauling, which subsequently became Nicholas Pinamal, and so on.
Okay. Now that's interesting. So your student hired you. What a ironical thing, and what an interesting incident. Hey, thanks, Vineeth, for sharing this. Now, let me go back a little bit to the audience. Quite a few of you have joined already. So our LinkedIn analytics reveals that we have CXOs, founders, IT managers, and technology industry folks in our audience, all coming here with a common agenda: how to succeed with technology, how to break the move from 83% to the 17% side, that is to successfully deliver business value from technology. So let us see who all we have here. But before I do that, may I request our audience to share your name and where you're joining from in the comment box of LinkedIn or YouTube. So let's go back to our audience and check out who all are here. Okay, so here is our first one. I think even before we joined, or just as we joined, we had Sats from Texas who checked in. We have Abhishek from Bangalore. We have again Nitin from Bangalore. Hi, Nitin. And we have Amrinder from Bengaluru. Hi, Amrinder. Amrinder has been fairly, consistent in attending these chats. Thanks, Amrinder, for your support. You have Kailash Bhatt joining from, I think, if I'm correct, Dwarkesh Sugar. He's in one of the sugar companies in UP. We have Ruchi Agrawal Singh. Hi, Ruchi. And yes, the most awaited audience in every chat, Mr. Vijay Sethi. Thank you, sir, for joining us again.
Hi, Mr.
Yeah. We have Pawan Roy joining from Calcutta. Hi, Pawan. Shri Vallabh Kulkarni. Hi, Shri Vallabh. I see you of late attending many of these, skipping your Saturday naps. Thank you for doing that. And to everyone who's skipping your afternoon naps on a Saturday. Thank you, Pundarika, for joining this. Thank you, Partha, for joining us from Bhubaneswar. Wow. And thanks, Tarun. So let's go back to grilling Vineeth on his life and experiences and learning from his unique set of experiences. So Vineeth, let's begin with a recap of your childhood right up to your first job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to everyone, like you said, who's missing their snap or wherever you're joining in from. So it's good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever it is. So yeah, so talking about my career and how where we are. So born and brought up in Rourkela. So I saw somebody join from Bhubaneswar. So Rourkela is a township, steel township in Orissa, very cosmopolitan as I see it. And I've got a lot of friends. I'm assuming who will be watching this later on. Born and brought up in Rourkela, to parents both working. My mom was with Rourkela Steel Plant, and my dad was working for the Indian Railways. And me and my sister grew up there. Did my schooling, did my 10 plus 2, and then went on to do my graduation outside Rourkela. Uh, that too, like most of us do. I also had written all the entrance exams in the world, but never cleared any of them, and finally, finally decided to go out and do a BSc Computer Science from Bangalore. And and then on moved on to then came back, then had to come back to Rourkela. So there was a normally I would have continued my career there in Bangalore. That would have been a great thing to do. But then the circumstances were like that. I'd lost my dad when I was 12, and I knew how difficult it was for my mom to manage my studies in Bangalore, and the expenses and so on. So I had to come back to Rourkela. Uh, Interestingly, the first job, I mean, that's again, I keep talking about it whenever I get a chance to say that the first job was in those days, I remember 850 rupees, working for a liquor wholesale dealer. Right, Jagdish, that's when I heard first time I heard about pint and the nip, what it meant. So worked by a wholesale dealer doing data entry. Then one fine day, a friend called me and said there is an opportunity to teach in a school that happened to be a girls' convent school, one of the most popular girls' convent school called Carmel Convent School in Rourkela. I went there and taught their computer science. Then got an opportunity to uh, do a course in an IIT, because most of the time what happens is, Jagdish, when you do your BSc computer science or whatever, you end up learning a Fortran, COBOL, and Pascal, which outside nobody uses. So I went on to do a program with an IIT, but because I'd done my a bit of teaching in the school, and they saw that opportunity and gave me an option to work in an IIT. I worked for almost three and a half years in an IIT. Before I got this opportunity to work for, then I got the opportunity to work for railways. So I'll talk about that more. But then, yeah, worked for railways for a year. Then moved on. Went to Mumbai. I knew there was more for me than railways. No doubt, railways is a great place to be, but I thought there was more. I went out, went into Mumbai, literally with nothing in hand. Went to Mumbai, and that's when this AS400 programming and this incident that we started off happened, where my friend Gregory Paul happened to be my student, helped me get into Ron Pauling, and then into Shopper Stop. Incidentally, in Ron Pauling, I did the Y2k project, which is, I mean, most of us who've been through this age know what a Y2k was, how big it was.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I did the Y2k project, and I had an opportunity to go out of India, but I didn't take it at that time because I somehow preferred staying in India. Uh, got this opportunity to work with Shopper Stop, and I still believe Shopper Stop made what I am today, because that's about um, 14 years, 2000 to 2014, with an organization moving on from across various stages. Joined as a yes-founded programmer responsible for setting up just the basic. They had a challenge with the loyalty program, which they fixed, and moved on. So I was the data entry operator, sorry, the programmer, moved on to lead the loyalty programs, moved on to be the guy for heading the technology at HyperCITY. And 2014 is another interesting opportunity to head the technology and be the CIO at Bharti Retail. That was moved lock, stock, barrel to Delhi. Not an easy thing to do when you're settled down in Mumbai. Did that in Delhi. 2014 to 2016 was retail, and continued to be retail, working with, that's a large transformation project, which again we may touch upon later. 2016 is when I got this very interesting opportunity to let go of retail and move on to healthcare. Healthcare was, again, has been extremely interesting so far. So 2016 to 2018 with Fortis, 2018 and running strong with Aster DM Healthcare. So that's been my life from the beginning till end. I've been really, yeah, I tried to put it together for all of you.
yeah, yeah. Oh, so as you were narrating your story, Vineet, starting from a liquor distributor, then moving on to railways, then doing a couple of teaching stints, and then moving cities, which is not easy in midlife. So somewhere I sort of gather that you seem to have had an interesting an experimentation mindset. You have picked up whatever has come your way. I mean, share some examples in a deeper way. Like, for example, very interesting one you shared about joining railways and then coming out, which is like, I think anybody who joins a government job never comes out. So So how did you handle the experimentation and, of course, the challenges of experimentation?
Yeah, you're right. So I believe, uh, the Gita saying, right, karmanne vadhikarasya ma phaleshu kadachana. So do your work and leave the rest. It comes out. Uh, talking about how I took up railways. Railways was more on a compassionate ground. I got the job because my dad was in railways and he passed on. But then I had this, how it is, middle class families. When a government job is a government job, so I took it up. I had an opportunity to say, let me not do it. I was already doing well with an IIT, and as a young guy, I was well. So, yeah. So it was a call that I took. Interestingly, that's where I perhaps met my one of my first mentors because as part of as it was difficult a training program with Indian Railways in the Sini Southeastern Railway Center, uh, working as a commercial clerk. That was because the position was more on a compassionate ground, and there was nothing to do with the education and the background that I had. So I would have ended up. Maybe the Dhoni story, kind of maybe a ticket checking clerk or a booking window sale. Uh, uh, no regrets if I had ended up there as well. So that's what an opportunity, and that's when I met a very strong mentor there. I recently met up with her when I was in Delhi. Her name is Smita Rawat. She was a senior DCM. Senior DCM is a very class one, very senior class one officer who definitely had a role to play where I am. So she was one of the person who said, "What do you want to become in life? Have you thought about it?" Kind of questions that you, as mentors, you want to prod for people like others to pick up and grow. So yeah, it's been so yes, Jagdish. So it's been a care where you take what comes your way. Uh, you cannot have you have to take that what comes your way. You take it up your chin and deal with it. That's what I did even in shopper stops. I could have been an AS400 programmer and just go on there. Uh, I took it up when I got an opportunity to lead the point of sale department. I did that. When I did get an opportunity to do a data warehousing project. I did that. Got an opportunity to be the head of technology. I did that. So never said no to anything that came away, and that's what I keep talking to my whether it's my children or my team, that take it up your chin, take it up, and just do it.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful one, Vineet, because I do see people who sort of want to be choosy even at an early stage of their career, that hey, this is what I want to do, this is what I don't want to do, and saying no to even the promising stuff, which could have been like, even if you don't want to do it permanently, let's say, even if you did it for a couple of years, you would learn a lot. And I think it's a good learning for everyone who's watching this, to keep your minds open. I don't think anything lasts a lifetime. I mean, we are in a world where things change fast, and therefore, every single thing should not be looked at as a manjil or as a destination, but like as another step in the journey.
Journey.
Interesting one. I think you were at about 15,000 rupees when this railway opportunity came, which was like one fifth the salary, and you still took it, just to learn about it, and it didn't work out, and you left it, and then you moved on, and we see what you have. I mean, similarly, which graduate would want to, computer science graduate would want to do a data entry job, and you did it, just and I'm sure there were some learnings there as well. Hey, meanwhile, I think someone says hello, proud to hear you, bro. Is that your sister?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Yeah. Hi, Bindu. Thanks for joining us on this show. And we have Rajat.
Rajat Kumar.
Um, yeah. Do you know him?
Yeah, he's my schoolmate, I guess.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Awesome. Hi, Rajat. Yeah, so we have lots of people who love Vineeth coming in here. And we have Mayank Bedi. Mayank was on the show earlier.
Hi, man.
Thanks, Mayank, for joining us. And we have Seshu from Hyderabad. Hey, thanks, Ishu, for joining us. And now let's move forward. So, Vineeth, you told me that you rewrote the code for the Shoppers Stop loyalty program. And when we were discussing it, we were like, we ended up discussing about, managing outsourcing and,
Yeah.
what to do, what not to do. So you want to share about, this particular incident and then the insights about how to manage your partners or how to manage outsourcing.
Yeah, interesting, right? Because there were two such occasions. One was Shop Stop, where when I joined, and one of the first tasks that was given to me was because there was this code written uh, by the implementation partner at that time. Let me not take any name and and spoil some relationship. So it was an implementation partner at that point of time who had done implementation of the ERP, and as part of maybe some commercial guys negotiating and saying, okay, why don't you also implement my loyalty program? And they did some work. So there was this and there was this code that used to be miserable. So the loyalty program, for instance, people can understand, when if you have a loyalty program in which when you imagine you are a citizen member, and Shopper Stop tells you the point will reflect 24 hours or 48 hours after the shopping. You might wonder, why is it so? Because the point calculation program used to run for 3 days. That was the kind of code it was. So interestingly, so I was given the task, and I could rewrite the code, and it perhaps finished in 7 to 10 minutes. And that's the kind of change. So the point I think, Jagdish, we touched upon was like, yeah, there could be, we should, in outsourcing, even it makes a lot of sense even today. When you're talking about the big resignations and the attritions and the difficulty to find resources, and as business organizations, you'll always prefer to have people in your team who understand the business, at the same time get technology work done. The niche pure tech, you may want to give it to somebody who are good at it, but that is quote unquote outsourcing. You have a combination of outsourcing, offshoring, whatever you want to call it. Outsourcing, when you talk about, I always reiterate the fact to all of my team members and my team, is that outsourcing is outsourcing the job and not the responsibility. The responsibility is still yours. Outsourcing the job, outsourcing the task. So don't give up on that. It's been somebody else's job. So I have to be sure as to what's happening. So there has to be somebody in your team who is still overall responsible, neck on the block, when it comes to that particular responsibility. The job is outsourced, not the responsibility. So that's very important. I guess that's very important in today's times as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think, just to recap the entire incident, there was somebody who negotiated that, you will not only implement the ERP, you will
I
also
guess.
implement the loyalty. And and there was nobody to, like, really check out the performance or the quality of that code on your side. And then it ended up where it was resulting in customer dissatisfaction, and then you had to clean up the entire code. And then the lesson that, you can outsource the job, but you cannot outsource responsibility. By the way, we need just to share with you my experience on that. When I became the CIO for a large organization, 35,000 crores, I had only 7 people IT team.
Hmm.
And I kept adding a few team members here and there, to fight those fires. But eventually I went back to my boss and I said, I want agreement on one principle, okay, when we are looking at the team. Because every time I go back with some role, the question comes back, why can't somebody from your partner do it? So the principle that I got him to agree on after a discussion was that we will keep the accountability inside.
Yeah.
People can do their job, but then, if something goes wrong, then we cannot point a finger outside. We have to be able to point a finger inside, and therefore keeping the accountability inside. And that led to, this becoming a fairly much larger team, um, about 100 plus people, making sure that, every part of the business we take the accountability. So let's move on, Vineeth. Yeah, you alluded to it, when you were going through the overview of your career about your joining Walmart being an interesting incident. What was that interesting incident that led you to join Bharti Walmart?
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know how many of the audience now are from Bharti Walmart and understand this. Is that I was uh, by now in Mumbai for close to 12 to 13, 14 years. I had got married, had my children there. I'm pretty much settled in Mumbai, and I was with Shopper Stop. uh, when you're in organization for 12 to 14 years, you are the not the be all and end all, but almost there, right? Because you become the authority. Everybody, you're very comfortable, you are very much in your comfort zone. I felt I need to come out of that comfort zone, and there was this opportunity, that interesting incident that happened where there was a retail leadership summit where me, Vinod Krishnan, who was the CIO at at Walmart at that time, and we were all sharing the table at retail leadership summit, and we had Raj Jain, who was the CEO of Bharti Walmart at that on the table, and I knew that they were looking for a CIO because they had got the demerger between Walmart and Bharti had happened, and Bharti was on its own setting up systems, and there was this opportunity. I don't know what hit me at that time, but when I left the table and I was as at the buffet and picking up my food, I had Raj Jain in front of me, and I remember telling Raj that I heard you're looking for a CIO, and I don't think you'll have anybody better than me. And I still can remember his face. He looked back and with kind of what kind of approach is that? It was like a very confident cold call. So he looked at me and he said, "Oh yeah, maybe. So why don't you send your resume?" This happened around January. I shared my resume, and May 23rd, I was a lock, stock, barrel, moved to Gurgaon with my family and joined Bharti. So yeah, perhaps I don't know what made me ask that question, but yeah, it was a very very good one, and I enjoy. I really loved that whole stint that I did in Bharti
Was it
Walmart.
was it a few hundred mLs of C2H5OH down the system?
I don't know. You mentioned that maybe, but I think I would have still done it.
No, no, of course, of course. It's just that it gives you some courage.
Yeah.
But no, no, that's interesting. And I was like, I was recalling what I said right in the beginning, that I think ask and you shall be given. So if you don't ask, you will never get it. But if you ask, there is still a chance that you will be given, and at least the discussion will start. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that, Vineet. But now let's come to the serious part of it. This Bharti Walmart was embarking on a very, very critical, mission critical program, with quite a bit of downside if you don't complete that in time, and you decided to pick up that challenge. So tell us about what that program was all about, and what was it like, assembling a team across so many partners, and then driving the program to success.
Yeah, I will talk about it, but while before, just maybe before I get into that, your whole program starts off with the premise and theme how IT projects fail, right? Because I thought, therefore, I have to really call it out.
Yeah,
And I've been watching you, I've been following you on this aspect. I know you quote Vijay Ramachandran, who's a very good common friend, and many of us. So, uh, this why I'm saying that is because when you talk about this, there is nothing called technology projects. There are only business projects.
absolutely.
There are no IT projects. They're only business projects. The one that going to talk about now is actually exactly why it succeeded, because it was a business project and not an IT project. So this was a huge transformation that we had to do. No choice, right? Things become very easy for CIOs in such such circumstances. Because this was a transformation that Bharti had to do because we had demerged from Walmart, and there was a deadline to use Walmart systems, and there was this date, January 1st, 2015, where we had no choice but to stop using the systems, and we had to have our own Bharti system. So that led to a huge transformation project, and one of its kind, because I don't think I have done anything like that. What people do for 5 years or 6 years in their career, we did it in 6 months. So it was about changing the ERP, changing the point of sale, cutting over 190 plus retail units spread across the whole of North India. uh, Maybe there would have been an easy store right next to you where you're sitting somewhere in the hills now. Jagdish. So it's like it was all over 190 plus odds thing, and but then it was done as a team. There was a large team working from the business. I had a small technology team. I had the SAPs, the IBMs, the Wipros, the SAP Max Attentions, and there was Stellium. There was a lot of other people working with me at that time. Just to broadly call out numbers, just with IBM and Wipro, I had close to 300 people on the floor, on the ground, because that's the only way I would have pulled off a project like that, where we had to finish cutover of 198 plus stores, everything from network to point of sale to backend. So it's been a great, but then again I reiterate what I started off saying. That was success not because there was a Veneeth. That was successful not because there was a IBM, a Wipro, an SAP involved, and Accenture was one of these system integrators. All of them did a great job, but it was successful because the business was right in front, was driving it from the front.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think Vineet, I'm not going to leave you on that. You can't simply blame it to be a business project and say that it was successful and Vineet didn't do anything. I know it's not that easy. But yeah, I want to pick up that point and then ask you the follow-up question on that. So I think the point is that and it's a very, very important thing, when the entire business is aligned. I know when there are no other paths, then that kind of brings the focus from everyone to make it successful. And I think I want to allude to one of the ClarITea chats with Manish Gupta, the Group CIO of Aditya Birla, and he talked about the acid test of programs. And one of the acid tests was, is there a senior leader who's willing to not take failure, okay, as an outcome, number one. And second was that our business folks or the organization leadership, are they willing to put their best people on the job? Okay. So, and I think here I see both of these. The answer is yes. You won't take a failure as an outcome, and you will put your best people behind it, and that's what will create success. But you are right. When you treat every project as a business project, it will succeed. But therefore, I want to make that nuance that it is 17% of technology projects succeed, 100% of business projects succeed.
Succeed. Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. So, but now I want to again pick your brains. Okay, I'm sure with so many partners around, it's unlikely that there are no conflicts, right? It's unlikely that there are no pulls and pressures. I want you to pick up a couple of examples and talk through them as to how do you really build that one team. I know, Vineeth, when you get to work, you will build a one team, but not everyone is able to do that. So just talk about from a conflict examples point of view as to what did you do, what are a couple of things you did.
So I would say that there are several things that you do, but then I believe just keep it simple. The project managements, the basic structures and the principles of project management are not made just for it, just for the sake of it. There are reasons why it's been made like that. How you conduct cadence calls, how do you have a project plan, how do you have a very critical path mapped. Some of those may find very theoretical, but when you get into such projects, all of that matter. So how you have few people owning certain regions. I used to call out. There is very. Even now I do it. I'll have a team working on something, and somebody might say, "I said, who is doing it? Who is owning it?" Now, very interesting. If you have into any discussions and say, "Who is the owner?" You might find five people raising their hand. They say, "No, I want one person who is the owner." And sometimes I say, "Whose neck on the block?" That sounds a bit right. So whose neck on the block? So that's that I'm saying. So therefore it all matters as to how you run the projects, how you give very clear clarity on people you owning it. At the same time, putting the governance right up there in terms of whether it is through project updates or through having multi-party updates. We used to have multi vendor, you want to call it multi-partner updates, where everybody is there. So there is no question that vendor A says B was at fault, B says D is at fault, because this is a very common problem that we have, right? Oh, I'm not he, and then you as a customer or as a business owner is left to see, okay, who do I get the work done from? So therefore, whether it is multi-party meetings, simple cadence calls, update stand-up calls. We used to have daily stand-up calls in this. We had no choice. We had daily stand-up calls. Ownership clarity. So I guess it's all of these. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure all the people watching this, as well as the CIOs and the other who we are all friends of, everybody go through that. But it's very important that we have very clear cadence and
Yeah. No, absolutely, Vineet. And like, let me give some gravity to what you said, and summarize. I think, yeah, it's all the simple but basic things in life. I can call it as a program management hygiene. The basic principles of program management. So, have your governance right. I mean, and as many parties are involved, that many parties participate in the governance, and that brings everyone on the same page, and can't lead to any kind of backbiting or blame game. Here I want to recall my experience when I ran the first business program. I was like a first IT program. I was still a business manager, and one of the things that we got to know is that there's always this IT, the SI partner and product vendor, blame game that goes on. And one of the first things we did was we made sure that we take a technical account manager from the product vendor, and we basically run sort of that daily weekly governance with them. And any kind of and both things get called out, like if a technology cannot do something, we have a support ticket raised on them. But if the right architecture or right practice is not followed, configuration practice is not followed, that also get called. And just like putting both of them Loctite, and it's like preventing the blame game itself. And I think that's what you mean by running these multi-party governance meetings. Plus, yeah, the daily cadences, the programs which have been brought back on track by me, when I just asked the team to get into a daily call, and I was on those calls. And after 1 week, when they got used to those daily calls, they didn't have to really. I was not needed. I was used to do something else, and the project kind of came back on track. So these are the basics which are very important. But like all good things in life, we sometimes take things for granted and forget the basics. But thanks for sharing that, Vineet. Many a times, it's not rocket science. It's just going back to basics.
Yep.
So, Vineet, I have a very interesting question for you next. But before that, let me go back to the audience. Have been very active here. So let me go back to our comments and see what you have. Um, so he says, Seshu says, please tell us more about your shopper stop experience, which transformed from entry level to top position. So Vineet, you sort of, you glossed over it. But I think, yes, tell us like some 2 or 3 inflection points, which is when like, your game really changed, or 2 or 3 projects that you did or responsibility that you took.
I guess the first thing that really stood out was how I transformed the whole loyalty program and the team that I worked with. I remember that's perhaps the first time where I made a difference by collaborating well with the business folks, and I'm known to collaborate well with the business folks wherever I go. So that difference between the technology team and the business teams, whether it is the marketing or the finance or wherever you work, how is it that you collaborate well? How is it that you talk about? How is it that you keep it transparent? IT is. I don't like in the word IT. I want to call it the technology team. Incidentally, in Shopperstop, we used to call it the solutions and technology team. So it was a team that was responsible for giving solutions to business. So a few things that I must say that I changed and that made difference was how I worked with the team along me, and me worked with the on the loyalty program and sorted that out, and then moved on to take up more responsibilities. I guess because I was open to taking more responsibilities and did that reasonably well, I was given an opportunity to lead HyperCITY, which came my way as and that perhaps was the first time when I was a CIO equivalent. So that would not have come if I had said no to many other things that came my way, whether it is loyalty, whether it is data warehousing, whether it is websites and various other things that came my way.
Okay, okay. So that's great. I mean, so Seshu, I think you got your answer. So any responsibility that came Beneath's way, and that was our first question to him about the experimentation mindset. He just picked it, made a success out of it, learned, and then moved on to bigger things. And I think it has been a tale of getting out of your comfort zone, doing something new always, including like moving from a well settled life in Mumbai to Delhi, and then back to Mumbai, and then to no, not back to Mumbai, but then to Dubai, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have okay, so we have somebody from near you, Beneath, who's joining us.
Yeah, from
That's
Muscat.
from Muscat. Yeah. And then we have one question from Amrinder. He says, what are the cultural similarities and differences for a leadership role while working in India and Dubai? I will assume that Amrinder might be wanting to move to Dubai, but on this note, educate
So
him.
I joke about it. Dubai happens to be the perhaps the 14th or the 15th district of Kerala, or perhaps another state in India. Because yeah, so jokes apart, yeah, Dubai is one of those places where you get to work with all the international. It's like being at a place where you have multiple ethnicities, multiple culture, multiple people from all part of the world working with you. It's a different experience, but I must say that Indians and in India is definitely a larger population. So there is you are working with a lot of Indians when you're working otherwise. But then you definitely get a lot to learn from various cultures. Every culture has got its own differences and its nuances. I might call it. I never had any challenge working with my team has people from the rest of the Middle East, whether it is Lebanon, Jordan's, Egypt. I got people from the US. I have people from UK in my team. So yeah, I believe it's a world working together, and I'm enjoying it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So then we have Partha who has rephrased or summarized your experience. Any opportunity comes with a purpose that enriches our learning. Great to hear the experience of Vineeth. Yeah. Bang on, Partha. Okay, let me move on to other questions. Okay, so this is a question from Texas, from Satya. With the great resignation, lots of folks are working with one foot in the door and one foot out, interviews, etc. Is that culture and goal problem in the current team? How do you recognize it and improve the environment and motivate the team? But before that, let me ask you, Vineeth. I mean, do you also see that great resignation problem in Dubai as well?
No, not as much in Dubai as because we we had started off with the strategy of offshoring and having teams in India, so that many of our tech teams were offshored into India, into Bangalore. And that's where I face a challenge because
Okay.
uh, we had taken that call and we were about to get more people on board in India, and this really hit us. Every person would have 3 or 4 jobs on hand, and interestingly, they'll come into the interview saying, you know what, by the way, I've got 2 other offers. If you want me, this is the salary that I'm getting. So not a very healthy environment, I must say. But I still believe, Jagdish, that it's not for long. People who are seriously interested will not do this game, and I'm sure you'll have this getting back to normal soon.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's hope so. And I think let me also answer that question because I advise a few technology CEOs, Satya. So and I've been like curious about this particular phenomenon, and I think most of your root causes there lie with your culture and your people leadership. So my personal viewpoint on this is that uh, you know this whole COVID resulted in a massive disruption in terms of how people work. Not just it was not just a matter of remote versus in office, but so many other things, like the conflict between your personal life and your professional life, and so many things that have changed, right? And I think what happens with that kind of a disruption, managing that change very consciously and effectively is important. This is where leadership, or people leadership, and managing, your shaping your culture comes into play. And most organizations don't manage it actively. There's a culture, but you're not really actively managing that culture. So what happened was, during the pandemic, these things, the culture and the people, the change management with the people part got completely unmanaged, and that has led to a lot of stress, a lot of overworked people. Then there were people who, there were companies who sort of let some people go. So there was this extra work coming on the existing people. So there has been a lot of disenchantment, a lot of disruption, a lack of change management, a lack of managing culture effectively. And I think that's all kind of resulting in this great resignation. So I think there's a good amount. What I really like is there's a good amount of discussion happening on this. There's a good amount of thought leadership coming in here. The top managements are, more and more sensitive towards the disruption it has caused to the people, and they're trying different things to create a better engagement with people. And therefore, I agree with you, Vineet, that we will learn our way into managing this, and this should come in control later.
Yeah.
So, Vineet, let me move on to my next question. And again, I think with rich examples which you can provide. I do see some feedback here. Is there? Just a minute.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah. Is there a feedback? Do you hear any repeating? No. Okay, that's great.
Fine.
Yeah. So, Vineet, the service industry has faced the biggest digital disruption, and you have been all along in the service industry, retail and healthcare. So, tell us through your experience and examples as to how do you keep pace, and how do you manage to transform?
Uh, so I believe now it is to a state where I don't think anybody has a choice but to transform. So it's not anything about any choice. I keep saying this, uh, that I don't know that we'll touch upon this right now, because that healthcare is perhaps going through a stage where what banking went through a decade ago. So the whole and now it's perhaps also because of my 16 years in retail that makes me say that, or 14 years in retail that make me say it, is that uh, the whole lot that we're doing is to make focus on the customer, focus on the patient in this case, in my case, and to make yourself available across channels. The choice of the channel is on the customer or the patient. If you don't by any chance, if you're not available on a particular channel, and if the customer or the patient wants to reach out to you, it's your loss. The patient will go to somebody else, or the customer will go to somebody else who has that channel. So it's your responsibility that you are there in all channels, and leave the choice to the customer and the patient. In my case, I keep saying patient because I belong to healthcare, is that they get to choose it. Which is why the whole digital disruption, or the digital transformation that we call about, is gaining a lot of momentum, because more and more people want to use the platform that exists, whether it is the internet or the mobile or whatever comes their way, that makes it convenient for them to take the service, whether it is retail or healthcare. Uh,
Yeah.
so that you have to be available across all these channels. That's perhaps, if that sums up and answers your question, Jagdish.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, just again, my habit of summarizing. So what you're saying is that it's all about the customer. It is not about, like, physical versus digital. It is about the customer, the convenience and the multiple channels available to the customer, and whether you are there or not, right? And how effectively you are there. So how much focus do you keep on customer experience, or in your case, patient experience? And as long as you make it seamless for the customer, you make it convenient for the customer, you benchmark with like the companies who are you can say digital savvy out there, keep learning from them, keep improving your own processes and your seamlessness and your optionalities to the customers across those channels, you will survive the scare, right?
Correct. Correct.
That's great. That's great. So, Vineeth, maybe like you touched upon it a little bit, but let me still pick your brains on the technology adoption in the healthcare industry, and some unique technical, uh, I mean, some unique things that you guys are doing with respect to Indian companies.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Jagdish. Yes, so because that's my favorite topic, and that's my passionate topic as well. Is that the fact is, when I must say that when I joined healthcare in 2016, when I joined Fortis, coming from retail, I definitely found the technology stone age. I have no, I don't want to mince words there. It's very clear. So and there were a lot of areas where I felt that technology could play a bigger role. So yes, so but then over the last like I said, just momentarily called out saying that healthcare is perhaps going through a large change, which whereas banking went through decades ago, where more and more services will be available, will be required to be available digitally. That will be a customer requirement or a patient requirement. So there will be a lot of things that will move digital. Having said that, uh, the pace has been accelerated several times with the pandemic. Here was a very clear use case where people were not able to move out and meet people in person, but at the same time want to take care of their health, whether it is a normal consult, whether it's a top of the medicine, whether it's a regular chronic, what do you call, chronic checkups that they had to do, whether it's a blood pressure or diabetic with your doctor, and so on. Suddenly, all that became so important and so useful when you have a virtual consult. And the same virtual consult somewhere in 2016 was so difficult for people to use. We had all the reasons why nobody wanted to use it. So the technology existed, but then the use case came very loud and clear this time. Similarly, with very many remote IoT based solutions, right? So from the technology perspective, an IoT based chip which could connect onto the Wi-Fi and 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 transmit the relevant data for a receiver to do something about it, that existed. But how that again was put to great use when there was a COVID ward where there's a set of patients sitting there, their vitals were being transmitted to a doctor that is being remotely watching them, having a paramedic or a nurse next to them taking care of them, became a brilliant use case. Because so technology put to good use, that's what we saw during the pandemic. And healthcare was one of the best examples, obviously. And that's where, so yes, healthcare will take this momentum forward, I'm sure, and will go through a huge transformation. But let me tell you, things are not going to, I also don't want us to think the way that, oh my god, there are not going to be any hospitals and clinics anymore. No, that's not the case. Just like we said, oh, e-com is coming, there's no, all the stores are going to be shut and there will be nobody walking into a store to pick up stuff. Never happened, right? It's the coexistence, and it's the whole omni-channel piece that's going to continue to work. And in our case, you may not want to do your follow-ups every time in person. You may want to do a few follow-ups on a virtual consult, but you will go to your doctor and meet him when you have something that needs an attention. You will go to a hospital to do that procedure. So that's how I see it. I see a big change. uh, and Jagdish, another point here is that very important when it comes to India is that, I think I touched upon it when last time also chatted about it, is that for India, this is big. For India and a country like ours, which is large spread, where we still have a large population of ours in the rural areas, not having the access to the best of healthcare, having to travel miles together and hours together on trains and buses to meet a doctor in one of the metros. Imagine having a next door clinic or a dispensary or a small outlet where they could do a virtual consult with the best doctor sitting in any of the metros. So I see a huge transformation with all the work that we're doing in healthcare and government included in India and everywhere. That will really help people, serve people better, and have a better health for all of us. Are you on mute?
Yeah, thanks. I was actually asking my daughter to get me another cup of tea, so I put myself on mute. Yeah, but like again to summarize what you're saying is that I think there was always this model of primary, secondary, tertiary healthcare, and I think with this video and let's say some of these remote devices which can take some of your vitals, they can take care of the primary part of it, and therefore the primary part, sort of the primary part of healthcare gets widened, right?
Exactly.
um, yeah, and then the second is like it may not always be telemedicine, but it may be that you are there with a primary healthcare worker, who gets you in touch with somebody, let's say, sitting in a big city, and all the clarification questions, that how's this vital looking, how's that looking, etc., that can be done by the trained staff which is sitting next to you. He may not be that well trained, but at least good enough to follow the instructions of the senior doctor, right?
Correct. Correct. So
And
we call it the second opinion, Jagdish. So there's something called a second opinion, which is more popularly known as your second opinion becomes the systems and solutions and these experts.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So let me again go back to some of the audience questions. We are like some 4 minutes away, and I've sort of run out of my questions, Vineet. So let me go to Pavan, who's asking, your growth is amazing. How do you plan your personal side to catch technology that is changing so fast? Um, Also, okay, so let's first ask this question, then we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, so it's you're right. It's not easy. But again, as you are always learning, I am still learning. I last 3 months ago I finished my program with Columbia Business School on digital transformation and digital health. So I don't stop learning. So I think that's the spirit I think all of us need to have. One of the interesting things, long time back, I think I remember it was another one of those mentors, Mr. B.S. Nagesh, who's one of those founding leadership in in Shopper Stop, told me is that you don't have to wait for HR to send you to training. You have to invest in yourself as well. So don't wait for the HR and somebody else to fund your own learning. Take some money out and invest in yourself and continue to learn. So, and last but not the least, I learn from every vendor interaction that I have. Even now, any people coming my way, you as CIOs and IT leads, we are going to be getting many emails saying, "I have this wonderful solution. Do you want to?" And most of the time, we'll say, "Come on, man, I don't have time for all that." Sometimes just have a chat with them, 15 minutes, and you learn.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, sometimes you can do it deliberately, because I remember, when we were pushing forward on this digital transformation, I mean, having worked on the foundational elements of it, we used to organize these, like, day-long sessions, because it's not only about one person learning, all the CIO learning, it's a team that has to go together. So we used to collect like 20 to 25 of us, of my team members, including some key partner people, and we would invite a partner to like take us through a day-long session, more like a brainstorming session, a knowledge come brainstorming session, in terms of sharing what's the latest and greatest they have, and then, like, running some brainstorming in terms of, like, what kind of potential use cases we may have, and things like that. So they may not result in immediate opportunities, but they were really good in sort of getting us to and these were, like, some, I think, very um, uh, frank discussions, where our people will sort of also lay out, what kind of challenges there may be, what kind of integration challenges there may be, like what kind of, let's say, migration challenges there may be. And so these were very, very much like working sessions rather than the typical, those pre-sales or sales pitches. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question he has is, how do you maintain the value of IT to work proactively to give solutions which is business to consider themselves as a business enabler?
That's perhaps for another chat of yours, Jagdish.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a long question. Maybe I'll plan to write an article about it, Pavan, if I understand the question. First, don't mind me pulling your leg, Pavan, there. But I think the third one is important. Healthcare
Yeah,
industry AI is not successful because
yeah,
100%
you're fine.
prediction not.
So
How
I'll
do you
quickly
use
touch
AI?
upon. I'll quickly touch upon it. Yeah, yeah. So he has a point in many of these things. And so technology, like I said, you many a time you come across people coming to you saying that uh, here is a toy. Do you want to think about how to play with it? It doesn't work like that. So it's rather if you are able to say that, I know that this problem exists, and here is something that I think can solve. That's the kind of conversations that I prefer. So you have a lot of the AI ML coming your way, and nothing can be expected to address all the challenges. Healthcare definitely is an area where you cannot have any false positives and false negatives. It has to be proper. So it has to, when you look at artificial intelligence or any of those which has an element of probability, you have to be careful, because in healthcare it's a very different ball where you can do such tools and solutions in the other industry, and fail. Here you might try it, just like I said, on the second opinion and things like that, where you are not fully depending on it. So that's what we do. But it's also important at the same time, as technology heads and CIOs, to continue to experiment and continue to do proof of concepts and small pilots, and keep working on these, because you never know. Certainly there must be a great use case that sits out there, but if you don't try it, you'll never know it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So, on that note, let us start the rapid fire round, Vineeth. And let me pick up some questions, from the audience. I'll mix up my questions and audience questions. Sumit from my team actually has written to everyone saying that, you can ask your rapid fire questions. So here is a question from Ashish. You can go rapid fire on that, like half a minute answer. What best practice do you follow to handle conflicts among different teams? Would you like to share best practices followed by you in your journey? Maybe one or two things you follow to manage conflict.
Not maybe just one thing. So conflicts and what conflict is a nice word. If you don't want to say politics, so so the best thing to say is that, okay, go straight and head on with the conflict. So if there is any conflict between two, get both of them into the room and ask them what the conflict is about. Don't try to beat around the bush.
Absolutely. Bang on. That's my approach as well. Like, if there's a conflict, get both of them in the room and ask them to sort it out themselves, and you moderate the discussion. Yeah. Okay. So there's another rapid fire question. Um, Maybe I think I don't know who this LinkedIn user is. Maybe Vijay Sethi. You have always said yes. What do
That's
you say no to? Oh, this is Satya. Yeah, Sats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so saying no is very important. I've said no to several times when requirements were pushed at me, and things were pushed at me. Say that I want it tomorrow. Again, technology is one place where uh, people, all of us, there is this interesting thing called agile, right? Yeah, people think agile means I can change it anytime. So that's not agile. So the technology, sometimes you believe that, oh, I want this and I can't do it. I have to do it tomorrow, and I've said no. So saying no is also a good way of saying yes. Saying yes in a better way.
Say no to shortcuts.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there's another rapid fire from Kavita. How do you see the growth of telehealth in rural India? What's missing there currently?
Very, very, very good question. I'm so happy that somebody asked that. Yeah, telehealth is huge going to be in rural India. What is missing there? I think what's missing is the clarity as to how people can avail of it, the communication from the healthcare providers and the service providers as to where it can be used. And let me explain that better. If I were to tell my patients saying that you can come to me and do your first consult in person, but your follow-ups can be all using teleconsult and nothing changes, and we'll get the medicine delivered to your home. That's clarity. Saying that if your chronic care, if your mom or your senior citizens at home need to do your consults and regular checkups. We all know that a chronic care patient needs to do their regular checkups very regularly, and not all the more in India, right? We can always do a top up, go and take your blood pressure medicine or diabetic medicine from the corner of your shop by without a prescription even. But then that's huge. That's huge. That's a big problem, because if you're not taking do your regular checkups, if you're not taking care of your health and not seeing a medical practitioner, that can be bad. Telehealth again to the rescue, because I believe all of those are the clarity that we need to give people, saying that you can use a teleconsult to do your frequent checkups. You can use, but maybe that 3 months, once in 3 months, go and see a doctor. Every month, do a teleconsult. So I believe teleconsult is going to be a big changer, big game changer. I got so many, and it depends again. I believe chronic care, home care, and things like, and there's a whole lot of discussions around mental health. Mental health is no more a taboo. It's a wellness. It's a matter of wellness. So all of that playing a big role in teleconsults and telehealth.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I think we need some sort of a revolution on telehealth. Something crudely like UPI. I mean, I'm in Uttarakhand, and I've been to, like, even small towns, villages everywhere, and I see a QR code everywhere. Like, you can simply, I've made like chai payments for 10 rupees, in a place called Ganyadyoli, using a QR code.
That's
And
good.
I think that kind of one is awareness, definitely awareness, Vineeth. But the other thing is, like, some simplicity, using the mobile model, and I think
That's
there's
how it
there.
is. Sorry, Jagdish, to interrupt. So, yeah, you're right. So the same model is being used by us in Aster and otherwise. Is that if I were to send you a QR code on your WhatsApp, and you can just click on it, or you can scan it, and you can get into a consult with Doctor XYZ on your slot. Isn't that simple? That's how it is getting to. That's what we are all doing now.
Oh, that's really awesome. I think you are like taking it the UPI way. Okay, so Vineeth, now I am like now to my rapid fire questions. So Vineeth, how many languages you know? Which all languages and how?
So yeah, so I believe that that stint that I thought about Rourkela, because there being a cosmopolitan environment where you're meeting multiple people, my neighbors were from all parts of the state. That has taught me a lot. That's what I am. That helps me interact with multiple people without any inhibitions, without any challenges. That has opened me right from my young age. So because of which I speak Bengali, I speak Oriya, I speak Kannada, I speak Punjabi, I speak Hindi, I speak Malayalam. Yeah, so I've been 2 years in Dubai. I'm sure I'm going to learn Arabic as well. So that's how I've been.
That's awesome, awesome. Like I'm like just imagining Vineeth meeting somebody saying, "Hey, I'm Vineeth Purushotaman," and the next four sentences are in Oriya. I'm like,
Yeah, I do that. I do that, and I surprise. So I got a lot of people in India. So interestingly, that I don't know that I mentioned that when I joined Aster DM Healthcare, one of the person I met in HR was once a student of mine in Rourkela. Her name is Gargi Mahanti. She was a student of mine in Rourkela when I was teaching in that convent school, and she was here in Dubai. So I speak with them in Oriya and speak with people in Bengali. I feel it always has a connect when you take people's name and
absolutely,
people's language. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So you mentioned about your mentor, Mrs. Rawat. Okay. So and but I think we're still missing the story of how your life changed because of like her push. So tell us the story with Mrs. Rawat.
Yeah, I did mention, yeah, incidentally, I just recently met her, and it was an awesome meeting her. Yeah, so it was, I joined, like I said, I went to railways because it was a compassionate appointment, and I had a choice that I had continued my service as so she pulled me in to be part of her department, because she knew that I could do a bit of programming. And during those days, I developed two applications for the Southeastern Railway. One was to do the ticket checking sales and booking window sales and ticket checking earnings. I even received a DRM award at that point of time, and everything for a 6 month in railways was good enough for me to stay there forever. But then I always ask that question: Am I doing the right thing? Is it the place I want to be? Do I want to do more? And all the while, my interactions with madam was very useful, because every time she would keep probing me, saying, okay, what's next, what are your plans, where do you want to be, what is it that you want to become. and all of that made me take that decision to even step out of railways. It was not a very easy decision to and go work in Mumbai and get into those days IBM Infotech, as well as Ron Polank and so on. So I believe, yes, it played a big role.
So her questions of what next, what do you want to do, what next, what do you want to do? I think they kind of had their effect
Exactly.
in terms of what you're today. So great. So Vineeth, yeah, one message for the young Turks out here listening to you.
I don't know. Do they really want messages from people who are great? It's a I always say, sometimes you have to be very careful. This is that generation who wants to be let alone to do things the way they want to. So that's very important. If in my to my sometimes to your kids even, they're not really giving waiting for gyan from you. They want to let go. And yeah, only thing, if I were to give any piece of advice, is that, yeah, uh, just take up things that come your way. At least be open to considering things, and don't shut it down. Never shut down anything that comes your way. Be open to learning, be open to listening, be open to trying out things. And you never know, that could be the best opportunity that's right in your way that you said no to.
Absolutely, and I think it's very consistent with how you've been how you've been doing yourself. So maybe the last one now. How do you de-stress from the busy life?
I listen to music. I love listening to Jagdish Singh. But one of the things that I do is, I have this passion for aquariums and fish tanks, and I've been carrying this for a while. So uh, I joke about it. My wife says, you come into the home and first look after your fishes before you even look at your kids. So I have this habit of coming. As of now in Dubai, I've got four fish tanks. So that de-stresses me. That going after every day, looking at it, and it's a big stress buster for me.
So do you have names for each of your fish?
No, no, no. I don't have names. So yeah, my daughter gives some of them names, but I haven't given names to them. But then, yeah, I got various. I got a discus tank, I got a beta tank, I got a plantation tank, and I
Okay,
keep
okay.
talking.
Yeah, so Vineeth, time now, for what I call as a revenge question. So, I've been putting you on spot. All of us, all of our audience have been putting you on spot, asking you various questions. So, your time to ask me question.
Very similar to perhaps what you asked me towards the end. What was saying, what keeps you going? What keeps you going? Because how much of that is passion? How much of that is family? Like you said, you just ask for the second cup of chai to your daughter and saying, "क्या chat करते रहते हो, chai मांगते रहते हो?" So how does it work? Because do they say, what keeps you going, Jagdish?
Yeah, no, I think just within this last week, I read something which was very powerful. Okay, which has stayed with me, which is like if your why is strong, the how will find a way. So
It's strong. How will find a way? Oh, great, awesome.
the why is strong, the how will find a way. So it's like if the purpose is very powerful, then you will find the means to achieve that purpose. And
Yeah.
so
There is a Shah Rukh Khan dialogue also similar to that, right? I
correct,
can't
correct.
remember.
Agar kya what
Yeah,
is that?
Kainat, something. Yeah, it was. I can't remember this.
Uh,
We're not good at it, perhaps. Again, that's why we're
कि
playing.
शिद्दत से किसी की ये करो तो पूरी कायनात भी साजिश करती है
Exactly,
something like that.
exactly, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So it is like I think I've been able to make it work. So the purpose was very strong, Vinay. I mean, my own experiences, experiments, some crazy things I did to make it work for business. And I've not been a very popular guy in the sense of the hard questions I've been asking everyone, the discipline I enforce sometimes. But I think it has always been getting results. And when I saw this research from Vijay, and I think this also when we talk, there are tons of problems out there tons of challenges. I won't call them as problems. Tons of challenges we face as CIOs. But what I've seen is that in most of the conferences and most of the what do you call events that we have in technology, it's all about the brighter side of technology. We don't have those frank conversations there. And then I wanted to do that, talk the real things in technology. So I took about 3 months to clarify the purpose, developed that PPT for myself, not for others. For myself, I developed that PPT, then I used it for others and all that. And so that purpose was strong enough for me to go on. My wife sometimes gets frustrated with me, saying that, the Saturday evenings, we can't plan anything else. I'm like, don't worry, you take me anywhere. I'll pull out my laptop, I'll put my hotspot and just give me 1 hour. So we've been doing this. I've done this. I'm doing this from my in-laws' place here in Halbani. The
Yeah.
last one we did was from Almora. The last one was from Halbani again. So I think I'm fortunate to have technology in a state where we can be free of the location challenges.
Yeah.
So it's fun, and I'll tell you, end of the day, the purpose is validated by the by all the audience, with their engagement and their support and all the kind words that they send my way. So it just strengthens. That's what keeps me going.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll not
Okay.
I'll not do the same thing that you do summarizing, because you're good at summarizing it anyway.
Yeah. So I think your sister sent us this way.
Yeah,
शिद्दत
yeah,
से
yeah.
कहोगे
चाहोगे तो
तो
पूरी
पूरी
कायनात.
कायनात जुड़ जाती है उसको पूरा करने के लिए. Yes.
That's the Shah Rukh Khan dialogue.
That's the Shah Rukh Khan dialogue. Yeah.
Thank you,
And
Bindu.
I
Thank
was like
you.
wondering whether whether it is one of your cousins here. Great to hear you in this platform, bro.
Yeah, again, another friend, another good friend. Yes, Anil Kumar.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. That's great. That's great. Okay. On that note, Vineeth, I know it's a Saturday afternoon, so I'll let you go. But before that, I must thank all the audience for attending and engaging and asking all the insightful questions. And thank you for all of those who will be watching this recorded version over the weekend and afterwards. Please enjoy your family time. Have a great weekend. And Vineeth, thank you once again for joining me on the ClarITea chat today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Bye guys. Bye bye.
Yes, let's hear the feedback.